Operatives in Afghanistan and Pakistan who have helped the United States in the fight against the Taliban say the leak of thousands of classified military documents could put them at risk. President Obama made his first public comments on the controversy Tuesday. He said the release of the documents by the website Wikileaks was concerning, but seemed to downplay their risk to overall mission in Afghanistan.
The fact is, these documents don't reveal any issues that haven't already informed our public debate on Afghanistan. Indeed, they point to the same challenges that led me to conduct an extensive review of our policy last fall.
Joining us now from Washington is Jake Sherman, reporter for Politico. Jake, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So you just heard the president. He seems to downplay the release of those documents. Was that the right response?
Well, I mean, he did say he's concerned, and administration officials have said, they've really said that they're outraged that all these documents got out and that there was a leak of this magnitude. But what the president seems to be doing is saying that it doesn't pose a danger to the American people who are in the field. And that's a great, concern to many people who have children or, loved ones in the military to say, listen, this was bad, but it does not really have any effect on what we're doing there, which should be probably comforting to Americans.
And Jake, the House passed a war funding bill Tuesday despite the leaks. The bill went through as far as the House goes, but Democrats seem to oppose this, the president's own party. So how will this play out?
Well, I mean, this is not the war funding and the WikiLeaks of these Afghanistan documents seem to be two different things. And, Democrats are divided when it comes to this war, and that's become evident in Congress this year. Earlier, when the House took up this legislation, they had to sweeten it, as it's called on Capitol Hill, with some domestic funding, which the Senate did not want to take up and was not comfortable with. So the House had ended up passing a stripped-down version of this bill with strictly war funding. And perhaps most shockingly, House Appropriations Chairman David Obey, who's a longtime veteran of Congress, did not vote for it, which was a surprise to some. But also, it speaks resoundingly about how deep the divide is in Congress about the strategy going forward and how the kind of partners Afghanistan and Pakistan have been in this war.
Mm-hmm. And Jake, switching gears now to midterm elections, which are only about 100 days away. How are both parties faring as we get closer to that?
Well, polls are all over the place, as they typically are. Republicans have been giddy, is the best word to say, about their prospects, how they think they'll do in November. They think that they'll take the House back, and they've said it. But Democrats, including top Democrats like House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, have said, listen, Republicans want to take us back to Bush policies, which are still relatively unpopular. Pete Sessions of Texas, who's the Republican congressional top campaign operative, has said that we would go back to the same agenda, which Democrats have really jumped on and said American people don't want to go back to that agenda, so they should keep us in charge. But listen, midterms are always difficult for the president's party, and the Democrats concede that they're going to lose seats, although they do not believe that they will lose the House.
But as Democrats get ready, are any going to avoid the president on the campaign trail, or does it look like that might happen?
Yeah, no, that will certainly happen, as it always kind of does. The White House and congressional leaders have admitted publicly and privately that there are districts where the president does not play well. I mean, part of the Democrats in Congress, part of their success, House Democrats, has been that they were able to win seats that were traditionally Republican, and that's why they have this gigantic majority. So if you're looking at a district like Bobby Brighton, Alabama, the president probably doesn't play well there. He's a Democrat, but he would not be, if I had to guess, he would not bring the president to his district. Alan Boyd, who's in northern Florida, traditionally a relatively conservative Democrat, a conservative part of the state, wouldn't be so quick to trumpet Obama and say, this is, he's campaigning for me, I'm with him. So certainly there are Democrats that will likely not bring Obama back to their districts with them.
And Representative Charles Rangel is attempting to cut a plea deal to get out of a House ethics trial. How could this hurt Democrats?
Well, Democrats promised in 2006 to drain the swamp, they said. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi promised the most ethical and open Congress in history. And they have been plagued by Charlie Rangel, who was once the Ways and Means chairman. He wrote the tax code, yet he is accused of not paying taxes, which is a huge problem for Democrats. And in 2006, Democrats won because Republicans were embroiled in all these ethical problems. So Democrats now, a couple months out from the election, are facing the same problem. They are going to see their tax-writing chairman, former tax-writing chairman, go on a trial of sorts, which is not something that they want. And they all kind of privately hope that Mr. Rangel will cut a deal to avoid this. But he has signaled that if it's not a deal he likes, he will go to trial.
Okay, it will be interesting. Thank you, Jake Sherman from Politico. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.